Alright, welcome back to the Supercoach Nuff channel. In this video, we're going to look at the round one preview, or team list reveal, I should say, for NRL Fantasy. So I did sort of release a team based on the team list the other day, but since then I've made quite a few changes and tried a few different options, and also had a few conversations with people in the chat. On that video, it might be easier if we just do a team reveal for each format. So doing the NRL Fantasy first, just not for any particular reason, just the one that came to mind at the time. So I guess I've taken all the players off so I can do it a bit more of a reveal style. And normally we go from hooker and go away down, but I'm going to flip it a bit and start at the back. So the wing fullbacks, the first player in, Kalen Ponga. Out of these sort of elite level guys, he's probably the one I'm most excited about for the first few rounds, given their relatively soft draw. And I think, he could definitely be a season-long keeper. After that, we're going fairly cheap. So, not that cheap, 350k. So, there he is, Iongi. I think he'll be in a lot of people's teams. Looks like he's locked in that fullback role at the Eagles and looked pretty good in the trial. So, I think he's a fairly no-brainer. And I'm also going with Nwanga Nituasi from the Roosters. So he should get dual position next week, which is going to be very flexible. I did have Ruben Garrick in that position, but I figured for 200k cheaper, a bit more value in this pick. And we can eventually get up to Garrick down the track. So, he's going to sort of be the bit of coverage between wing, fullback, and centre. And on my bench, although it'll only be for this week, if I can find him a little bit further, he's going to be AJ Brimson. So I like that he's playing 5'8". He does offer value at that price, and just having a piece of that Titans spine that looks super exciting is something I'm very keen on. So Brimson will be on the bench this week and allow me to play a bit of a loop, and then we'll go from there. In the centres, we're just going really cheap, if I'm being completely honest. So Purdue is in, Toya's in, and on the bench, Stafford Toa. So pretty job security looks pretty good for all three. Maybe Purdue, there's a little bit of conjecture that Zach Labert, when he's back up and running, might slot back in. But we will take the punt there on him. Toya, I think he is one of the preferred centres there at the Roosters, so we're pretty confident of his job security. And Stafford Toa, with the news that Olam's potentially going to have to retire, Naden's out injured, I think he's got a firm grip on a centre position there. The interesting one is Katoga. If he gets named on the edge of the Eels, is he worth the risk? It is the last game of the week. And I guess being a former Bulldog and seeing him in the lower grades, I am pretty keen on him. But it's just a wait and see. We could even potentially just wait a week, make sure he is confirmed to start on that edge, and pick him up for round two at still a sub 300k price. So in the halves, I guess the first one's not really surprising. Nathan Cleary. Probably the number one fantasy player. And I guess part of the strategy around having players for Vegas, you want to lock in your captain and vice captain. I think he's about 40% captained according to Footy Stats. So I think that's a pretty safe bet. After that, there's a lot of value. So Hines, I think, will be all right. I think he will drop in value as well. So I'm going to wait a little bit. But there is so much value in the halves that you've got to snap most of, if not all of it up. So the first value guy I'm looking at, I should go by ownership because he's highly owned as well. Luke Metcalf, named at seven, will be kicking goals. Seems like he's going to be the man there at the Warriors. Um, the other obvious one, or obvious ones, Sandon Smith, Tom Duffy. Tom Duffy playing halfback at the Cowboys, kicking goals. Sandon Smith playing 5/8. Not quite as advantageous, but goal kicking as well at the Roosters. So job security for Smith seems awesome. Tom Duffy, it's a bit iffy with Jakey Clifford, but I think you've got to have both of them. And then this one I didn't realise, but Jack Cole, 250k, despite playing a few games last year and averaging 31. Like you look at the averages around him, Kurt Donahue 18, Finu 17, like a couple of these guys, and even to like Sanders and Humphreys, they're averaging similar and they're 100k more expensive. So I think this is a free kick that we can't sort of turn down this week. So got the job, and you assume, I guess, if he's going to play this week, he'll play a few weeks. Maybe Talangi will force his way back into the side, but it's Cole's spot. So I think at 250k, he is another no-brainer. So we are fairly sort of stacked in the halves, but we're looking to make some quick cash. And then the forwards, I might just go the hookers first, because again, there's a bit of value here, so we're going to take advantage of it. So I'm going Mamazelis on field and Pakes on my bench. So looks like they've got the starting spots. Mamazelis has probably got slightly stronger job security, but it sounds like Madge is a big fan of Pakes, so I imagine they'll play somewhat similar roles. Um, Maybe Mamazelis will have slightly more minutes if Humphreys is playing halfback this week, in round one with Dodd out. So they do have Havili as well. Might sort of come on and play that 30 minutes at hooker, a bit of middle forward because they are missing Cam Murray as well. But we'll wait and see. So I haven't really been showing the team value, but you can see we've got a lot of cash still to spend, and we're going with the big in the middle strategy this year. So on my edges, they're also middles. I'm going Mitch Barnett and Jermaine Hopgood. A couple of big minute middle forwards that are eligible on the edge. The dual position will be very handy as well through the season, so locking both of them in. And then in the middle, Isaiah Yeo, um, Terrell May, they've sort of been fairly mainstay in this side. But with, I guess, some of the other cheapies that have cropped up, I can also afford big Payne Haas. So this five forward pack, it looks pretty juicy to me. Um, yeah, loving it. Just looking at it, it's good gear. So yeah, I mean there is other good options like if you like Fanua Blake, I don't think is going to play quite as many minutes there at the Sharks. They've got a slightly different role for him. Carrigan playing in the 10 instead of the 13. Might drop a bit. Tarpany generally starts slow and then he lifts through Origin, so that's when we may target him. McInnes is solid. A lot of these guys, you're getting what you pay for at this point. So, I'm pretty happy to lock in these guys. Maybe the one player I'd like to add, David Fafita. Just that upside is pretty irresistible, but we can't start with them all. So I'm very happy to start with these five keepers in the forwards. So on the bench, currently on edge, well, actually, they're both currently listed as edge, but one of them will be eligible to play middle. In saying that, we do have coverage with Barnett and Hopgood already. Um, got to find them now. So Tuolangi at the Eels. Um, and if I scroll down a bit further, Siwa Wong. So Siwa will be named, or if he is named at 13, as we expect, he will get dual position as well. And Tuolangi on the edge, a lot of people very keen on him. So um, probably going to follow the crowd there. In saying that, there is an alternative that I'm tossing up. I haven't committed to it just yet. If we get rid of these guys. So there is a couple of cheap edges. We've already talked about Kaltoga as one. You've also got Gubjeski is another potential one, not one I'm keen on. It's a bit yuck. Out of the two, I'd probably go Kaltoga. But I guess I'd have to make that decision fairly early next week. Um, and I guess what happened in this case, if it frees up 600k, and what it would allow me to do is get a bit of insurance at hooker. And the player I'd be looking at is Api Coruscant. So initially looking at the list, I thought there's not really a lot of value at hooker, which is why I was super happy just to go the two cheapies, make some cash. I got caught out with Harry Grant last year, and he just didn't really do a lot, or as much as I would have liked to start the season. Ruined my cash gen a little bit. Um, but I guess Terrell May coming to the Tigers is probably going to make Api Coruscant's job a little bit easier. Having that dynamic sort of front row who can offload. If Appy's trailing around the ruck, might create some opportunities for him there. And he's a creative enough hooker that he could definitely take advantage of that. So I am tossing up this as a setup, having Coruscant in the team. And then obviously, he would start and Mademoiselles would just fall back to the bench. Um, and then, if one of the cheap hookers doesn't pay off, we've got that insurance there. Um, so, yeah, like I said, I'm not convinced on that. Currently, I am leaning towards the sort of more mid price, middle edge covers. So, I'll bring them back in the team. I've gone too far. There he is. And so the team set up for the first week. Pretty much, I'll put the starting team in um, as per the program. So AJ Brimson will sit in spot number 4 to use, so we can take advantage of the loophole. And then we're just going to swap these guys around. So it probably doesn't really matter what order Wong or Tuolangi go in. So I guess the way the team's set up here, we've got Cole as our sort of looper this week. So if he goes really well over in Vegas, we can just leave Brimson there and he'll slot up into interchange 4, and we'll take his points. But if it doesn't quite work out, he only gets like a 20 or whatever, we might just slide Pakes up into number 4, and then we'll take Pakes' score. I think, 50 minutes playing in the middle should get about 40 or 30 to 40. And yeah, you obviously would take that in the interchange. So that's the play. We can obviously have a look at that in more detail throughout the season if you're new to the fantasy game. But captain, vice captain, I'm going to go with the crowd, although I don't mind having Isaiah Yo as a captain. But I'm going to lock Cleary in as captain, Yo as vice captain. And I guess whichever way you go with this, I would recommend locking in players from Vegas if you can as your captain. So if you've got Hines, if you like Barnett as a captaincy option, put the C or VC on them, because if you have it on, say, Hopgood and Haas, they will lock out. You won't be able to change them after the first Vegas game. So unless you're super committed to Payne Haas and you're like, he's going to be my captain, I'd recommend just picking a couple of Vegas guys, and then it gives you a bit more flexibility. If your captain and vice captain go down injured in training, you're stuck with a zero, essentially, or two zeros, because they're both locked into your team. So yeah, so I'm going Cleary and Yo, but again, if you don't have these guys, Hines, Barnett, Fanua Blake, if you like him as a captaincy shout, whoever you've got available. But that's the team. So um, yeah, as always, if you've got any questions, comments, thoughts, particularly Do I go the two sort of mid-price forwards, or do I go the Appy Coruscant route, gun and rookie? I'm very keen to get some thoughts on that because I am not 100% uh, locked in on that. Pretty much the rest of the squad I'm pretty comfortable with, unless there's injuries and that next week and team lists. Yeah, so let me know your comments and thoughts below this video. Give us a like if you enjoy the NRL Fantasy content. Subscribe to the channel. I guess I should have checked the league as well. I've just realised I've already done the pump up. So yeah, there's still 3 spots left in the second league. Worst comes to worst, I can always roll it back to 10 teams. So I will try to keep an eye on that probably Saturday night. But get on board if you haven't yet done so. Maybe even if you have already joined the first league and you're happy to fill in on the second one, we'll take it. But other than that, we'll catch you in the next one.